Well, it is still 6:30, and I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call of the members. Matt Yetton, myself, present. Susan Wood,
Here.
John Christ,
I'm John Chris. Nice to meet you.
Phil Lemeroux,
Here.
Michael Bouchard,
Present.
Molly McCann,
Here.
Neil MacGyver,
Present.
alternates Zach Tyrell. We have Phil as a select board rep, and Bradford Puffer.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you all. We have a full board tonight. It's wonderful for us all to be in a room together again. It's been since February, I think. We'll start with a review of the minutes from our May 1st meeting.
So if I can first point out one thing that's not really substantive at all. As for budget, Chris recommends planning staff look at similar recent projects, pause, for guidance. There's an unintended paragraph break, I think, in the middle of the sentence.
Which page?
Where? Oh, there are no pages on these.
There are no page numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Otherwise, I'll comment as others have in the past. You managed to take our comments and make us sound even better than we really sounded the first time.
That's great.
With the facts.
But it's the same ideas.
Which paragraph?
Avery's been doing a lot of great stuff with that.
No, it's great. They were.
Also, I think, I'm not sure if this was the wrong language at the moment, or if the wrong concept in translation of the minutes, but in the last paragraph on page 6, second to last paragraph on page 6, where it says Lamoureux proposed to introduce local wetlands ordinance, I believe my intent was that we consider a local wetlands ordinance rather than propose, but
We consider versus introduce.
Subtle,
Actually,
but-
introduce
Subtle
one.
change.
but it
Propose to consider?
yeah.
Concepts of a plan.
Propose, so it was a question, we were talking about, priorities of this board, and it was really about that we should consider if that's an appropriate thing to introduce.
Correct. You weren't actually making the suggestion to introduce one.
Right.
Yep.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of May 1 as amended?
Second?
If there's no more discussion on the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved with the noted corrections. Thank you very much. Moving on to meeting agenda item number 4, communications received by the board. Did everyone have a chance to look at the town social media policy that was adopted April 28th?
Yes.
I did. It seemed pretty sensible and straightforward.
Excellent. If you have any questions, we do have a member of the select board with us here tonight, Phil. Or any other questions can be directed to the board or Scott Whedon, I think, in general. Phil, did you have any comments on this one?
I didn't. I mean, we kind of discussed it last time, but I think we made some edits to make it a little bit more easier to comply with, but still maintain the intent of the concern that was shared by the insurance provider, so.
Yeah, seems pretty straightforward.
And I don't think anybody's had I don't know that there have been any situations where this has been warranted or needed. I think it was just kind of preventative, so.
Excellent. Well, great. If there's no other questions with this, we'll move forward. And like I said, if you do have any questions with it, please direct your questions to the select board or Scott Whedon. Thank you. We'll move on to applications and public hearings. Before I get ahead of myself with this, is there anyone in the audience or online here representing Mountain Village Charter School tonight? And I'm going to make the request that if there is no one here, I'd like to actually do the site plan review application for Walmart first, if everyone's okay with that, because I believe we have a representative from Walmart in the audience with us.
Yep.
Is everyone cool with that?
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I do have and we can also include those after the Walmart, but there are a couple of other letters that didn't make it on the agenda, but were in the packet, which we can we can deal with that, your discretion.
Let's take care of those letters now. I didn't mean to scream by them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. So yeah, they came in after the agenda, but before the packet. So these are 2 letters. Well, we'll call them 3 letters. So 3.5. First one, first one from Grace Garvey. And if folks want, I can give it a read through, or if people have had a chance to look at it. To summarize, Grace Garvey, who is of the Energy Commission, has asked if the planning board would like to designate a member to participate in a informal group that she is a part of, along with representation from the Conservation Commission, that is going to be looking at potential new conservation lands alongside Lakes Region Conservation Trust in the Plymouth area. It's not a formally chartered town committee or body, but it is a group that Grace has asked if anyone of the planning board, if the planning board would like a member to participate in those discussions in sort of an informal or on behalf of the planning board, she's extended that invitation.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Grace. Is there anyone that has interest in sitting upon that group at the moment?
I don't think I have time, but at the same time, I think the discussion that came up around this was that land trusts can be, they can be responsible for managing easements on conservation land. So we might see involvement of a land trust if someone were to propose a conservation or open space development, conservation development with a significant amount of open space reserved. Usually there's an easement that might be monitored by a land trust. So, it's not outside the realm of what this group would deal with. But I know I don't know who has time, but I know there are some qualified people here who would be appreciated on that committee.
I'll do it.
Oh, excellent. I was just about to ask when they meet, but it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Neil, you're in. Just kidding.
The next meeting is May 22nd at 5 p.m. And I will, if the board is hasn't made a decision, or says, Neil, you're the person, I will put you in touch with Grace Garvey, and she can give you the details about where the meeting is and the like, which I am not aware of at this point.
What trust are they working with? It wasn't Laconia Area Land Trust.
No, it's Lakes Region Conservation Trust.
Lakes Region Conservation Trust, okay. All right, thank you. Well, Neil, thank you for volunteering. That'd be,
I've had some involvement with the Energy Commission.
yeah. And the Conservation Commission
Yeah.
before, right?
I think you'd be a good person.
Great asset for that. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Be a good asset there, Neil.
Thank you.
We also have a letter from Marianne Barnsley with regards to a number of items referenced at the previous planning board meeting. Again, if the board would like me to read the letter or would like to just sort of discuss it or any other way of handling this, I'm happy to either read it or just sort of go through it with the board. It's really up to you folks.
My one point, oh, go ahead.
Please, I want to hear your point.
I'll say my one point of clarification was I'm not sure anyone, including myself, who probably pushed this point hardest, was saying there's no parking issues. I just think it's more complex than just the number of spaces. I think probably most of us agree that there's a parking issue.
Yeah.
But I think it's more complicated than just the number of spaces that are available, and it has to do with a lot of other issues as well. Otherwise, the letter was very much appreciated, certainly by me.
Well, was there anything else in the letter that you wanted to highlight, Joseph? Did everyone get a chance to read the letter or have any questions about the letter?
All right, I can
There was a brief comment in support of the Tenny Mountain Overlay District. then,
Yep.
then there was a lot of explanation of parking, right?
Yep, it predominantly
Discussion of
references
parking.
parking. It does, as you said, there is a support statement for the Tenny Mountain overlay, and then a reference to the select board's work towards creating an economic development committee, and the relationship of that to some of the statements about parking, particularly in the downtown area, and some of the past parking committee work
Yeah,
that's
so-
happened.
I appreciate that she reached out in this format to share her perspectives on that. I think she's, as a business owner and select board member, I think the work she's done has a lot of value, and we should put some weight into her thoughts. Give her some credit and
Agreed.
significance to her what she shared.
Yeah, and I do think if we delve into it deeper in the future, whenever it might be, that we do remember that there already has been a lot of research done on Main
Yeah.
Street and the parking. Great. Well, Marianne, if you're listening, thank you very much. We appreciate the correspondence and your input.
The last one is another legal notice, another balloon test in Samberton, which again has taken place prior to the meeting. So these are happening fast and furious, some would say, but it really is just another chance to view the potential visual impacts of a proposed cell tower. They float the balloon up to indicate the high point of the proposed tower. And we do have a copy of those tower plans, if anybody were interested. It is off from 16 Cadillac Lane in Samberton. So certainly happy to share those plans that we have as well.
Can I ask what our normal process is for posting, like for handling these? I know we're getting a copy of it now, but does the town put it on the website when it's received?
So
It would seem like it would make sense to highlight that, since it's such a short-lived event.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not aware of that being something the town has done in the past. Typically, when I receive CC on one of these, goes in the planning board's communications, but they
Right.
do go to the general town select board email too, so I think that makes a lot of sense, is that,
So the select board already receives it. Okay. I guess we should discuss, since it's really meant to be notice for the community more than the planning board. I would think that it would make sense for the town to share those in a public forum, so that,
yeah.
even if it was, putting it on the website and putting a Facebook post out for the people that follow that, just because it's very timely in nature.
They have to come to the planning board anyway for a permit.
Not to us.
No, this is just a development of regional impact. It's like a courtesy notification from an abutting town. So
And
this
they're-
was in Sanborn.
And they're pretty frequent, like the cell tower ones, as opposed to like the balloon tests for them. It's
Right.
pretty frequent.
Yeah, but I mean, balloon tests, they typically do it for a couple hours, and if you don't know that it's happening, you're not gonna see it, and you're not gonna have the ability to know if it's gonna bother you.
So you're saying just a balloon test, not necessarily all the cell tower notifications?
Really, it's the balloon tests that are most timely. Like cell tower notifications, you can respond to in any period of time. But if they're going to fly a balloon for 6 hours to represent the visual impact, it doesn't do any good unless people have the perspective to look for it. If it's on their horizon from their home and it bothers them, that's what they're trying to get comment on.
We did one for the tower that recently was constructed behind the furniture,
Yeah.
what used to be the Dodge dealer.
Tenny Mountain Highway, yeah. Yeah, it's there, I mean.
Most people don't really notice it. I don't think. Makes a big difference though.
But I mean, the whole purpose of noticing a balloon test is that they want people to be able to visualize it and see what the impact is going to be, and if people don't know about it, there's really no point to it.
And they do put them in a newspaper of general circulation. I think Samberton does the Daily Sun, so perhaps not the most widely read in Plymouth particularly, so it could be good for us to boost that.
It is available in Plymouth.
What size balloon they put up? Is it a pretty good sized balloon?
150 feet tall. Well, that's how high it will go, 150 feet.
They're usually,
For that particular tower.
For
they're
this
usually
particular-
like weather balloons that are like,
Oh, yeah.
5 or 6 feet in diameter, so they're easy to see.
Okay, yeah.
Not to be confused with extraterrestrials.
Right. Correct. Well, enough of the balloon discussion. If everyone's ready to move on, do we have any other communications?
There's one other communication that relates to Mountain Village Charter School, but I can save that if you prefer for when we get to that.
Yeah, let's save the Mountain Village Charter School communication. All right. Thank you, Joseph. I was trying to fly through communications, and thank you for reining me back in. All right. Well, let's move on to applications and public hearings, and if no one is still here from the charter school, we'll switch the agenda to start with the site plan review application for Walmart stores, which is a proposal that would expand upon the 2019 change by adding approximately 2,181 square feet of building area to the south side of the building and reconfiguring the parking in that area to accommodate expanded pickup area. Lighting and signage will also be updated along with the building facade. So first, let's review the application for completeness and acceptance. And I think there's a couple waivers in there made by the applicant. We'll determine if we have adequate information to move forward with the requested waivers.
I don't know if we want to hear from the applicant first, but it looked pretty thorough.
I think so. Does the applicant, if you have anything to say at the beginning, please stand up and address the microphone.
Justin Latier with Colliers Engineering Design. I think you covered the general gist of the project pretty well. Just a little background on why Walmart is doing these expansions. They usually do these pickup expansions, referred to as OPD, just to improve operations at the stores. This will come in conjunction with an interior remodel of the store that'll follow from an architectural firm. And it's basically just designed to kind of future-proof the site, make sure they can meet potential future demand for grocery pickup, and generally make the site safer and better to operate for everyone in the community and their associates.
Excellent, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you, but we'll call you up if you don't want to stand there the whole time. Thank you.
I thought the waivers looked pretty reasonable.
I thought the
Yeah.
waivers are pretty straightforward, 14, 18, and 23.
They'll deal with water and sewer facilities which are not on the site because of town water and sewer.
Yep, there's no proposed easements or deed restrictions or covenants. And then number 23, provision for a future expansion of sewage and water facility is also not applicable in this situation, I believe.
Actually, I'm just looking, does this plan, or one of these, include, I mean, just ballparking it, it all looks fine, but do any of these plans include all the setbacks and everything? I mean, ballparking with my eyeballs, it all looks good, and I know most of this is already approved from before anyway.
Yeah, so there's a setback table located on the site plan sheet C100.
Okay,
And the only change is to the side setback, which goes from 124 down to 100. But your code required 15, so we're still
So we're also
within,
good.
yeah. Requirement.
And I think we already reached out to town agencies. My concern was, did the fire chief have any concerns about the reduction in access around that side of the building? And it looks like we didn't.
but there's nothing there.
We didn't get a response on that, so my assumption is that no response is acceptance.
I would agree.
Is it premature for a motion?
I do not think so, if no one else has any other concerns about this.
I move we accept this application as complete.
Second.
With consideration of the waivers, just as a
With consideration of the waivers, yes.
Okay.
Second that.
Any other conversation with before the acceptance vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the application for completeness, the application has been accepted. Should I be opening up a public hearing now on the application?
We usually
It's
talk
not
among the
going.
board first. I
That's
mean,
what I
you can,
thought,
but, you
okay.
know.
All right.
Yeah, they put these seats.
Lots of people. Important.
Is there anyone online?
Oh, just 3 town staff, 2 town halls, and a Jonathan laptop.
Do you want to hear more first from the applicant, or do you want to jump right into the nitty-gritty?
Let's jump right into it.
Okay. So my biggest question I had looking at this was, I mean, currently when you go to Walmart, you go to the main parking lot, and you never have to go around the backs or sides of the building, really. So I'm looking at this kind of pickup space here. And so if one was to pick something up, would one, I guess, pull into one of these spaces and then back out and come back out the same way? You wouldn't have to travel like to the end and turn around or anything like that?
That is correct, yeah. So,
And there's ample space for the turnaround for cars and?
yep, it's a 25-foot drive lane, the same width that exists now. I believe that's within your code for a two-way drive. The intent is to never direct traffic back towards the truck area.
And I'm just curious if somebody, if it really is it mostly grocery pickup or is it also other stuff?
It can be anything they sell in the store.
I mean, I'm just imagining, like, we're in a college town here, right? Somebody comes in with a moving truck wanting to pick up some furniture on the way to, like, drop it off at their apartment. Is there space for a small moving truck to do that? Or would they just pull straight through and turn around in the back parking lot?
So,
I'm giving you the what ifs, but
yeah, no, they would. So I know sometimes on these, what they will do is they will have some larger van spots. Because of the width out here, we weren't able to accommodate any of those. So a moving truck of that size would probably have to circle around the back of the
Okay.
store, I would imagine.
What's the hatched area? Are those propane tanks?
Yeah, you've got a set of fenced-in propane tanks out there.
So technically a truck could pull in parallel
Yeah,
there
it
if they
could.
wanted
It
to.
could do a
If they wanted to double park.
in there. Yes, it could.
I imagine that would all work then. I'm curious what other people think about whether or not we need to send any of this out to our engineer for review, or because it's all really paved and building already anyway, if, not really.
I'm not worried about the runoff calculations changing because it's all impervious as it
And you
is.
seem to move a couple of drainage areas around, right? But
Right.
it's all gonna increase the flow, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, so we had to increase a few storm pipes just because they conflicted with the expansion area. They were going to be too close to the exterior foundation wall. But outside of that, all the water that goes to the existing catch basins is going to go to the new ones, and it's all going to route to the same location. We generally try, if we can, to keep these as low impact as possible.
It seemed pretty straightforward.
There's an additional catch basin being added from the old.
Yes, there is, because one of the things we did identify out here is the parking lot is not in the best of shape for anyone who's been there. There was a bit of a low spot at the front of that area, so we added the extra catch basin to pick up that drainage, routed appropriately.
That's good.
Do you anticipate that you're gonna hit ledge?
I don't believe so. We do have a geotech report that was completed. I don't have it with me, but that will be presented to the architect and the structural engineer. They're already well into their design. I have not heard any concerns from them that they're gonna hit ledge. I just don't remember off the top of my head what that report showed. We could provide that report to you guys if you wanted to see it.
the other issue that seems to come up is signage issues and extra signage.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Phil, you always know our signage ordinance very well. You often refer to it.
You must be thinking of someone else. I am concerned, I do see that there are 8 signs proposed on,
Yeah, if you're probably looking
the
for that.
pickup signage and marking details. It looks like there are 8 signs proposed to show pickup locations.
Yeah, so there's typically 2 types of signs we'll add for this. There's the pickup signs that obviously designate the spots, and then there's the wayfinding signage, which that's the 8 signs I believe you're talking about.
Yeah,
That kind of direct the customers to make sure that they get to that appropriately. If you would like, we could probably pare down a few of these signs if we're looking to just reduce the number a little bit.
There's an issue with our zoning, yeah.
On the one hand, I can see the purpose of that. On the
Yeah.
other hand, I can see the purpose of the extra signs, because in some ways, it's better to have a couple extra signs and people going where they should go, rather than driving aimlessly in a parking lot and causing havoc. They don't know because they don't know where to go.
Yeah, and I see less concern over directional signs than
Like
advertising.
Big advertising signs, yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with it personally, but.
In which case, we designate this as a master plan, a master plan for signage,
Right.
to accept more than one freestanding sign in the project. Is that correct?
That would be the way, that would be the only way under, so current zoning table limits properties in ICD zone to 1 freestanding unless the planning board approves a master sign plan, which if the board decided to perceive or review this or consider the signage data as a master sign plan, the board could waive that 1 freestanding sign.
Can I clarify if that requires a statement of intent from the applicant or just us considering it that way?
It does, so the master sign plan section in the zoning ordinance is very limited in detail. It does not outline a specific process other than that it must be submitted, reviewed, and approved. So it would need some type of affirmative statement by the applicant to be submitted, but then
Even submitted in voice? Doesn't really say, so I guess so.
I would agree with that.
I think I'd be okay with accepting this if the applicant did designate this to us that this is his master sign plan. I feel like I'd be okay in this situation, as sort of like Phil said, like, these aren't advertising signs. This is wayfinding signs to bring someone safely to the location you folks are working on.
I do think most sign ordinances I've seen differentiate between advertisement and wayfinding or other helpful negotiation.
Yeah, traffic signs, so we have several categories in our zoning ordinance, different types of signs. We don't have traffic signs regulated. We have a directional sign, which is quite a specific definition. It's more specific than I typically would think of a directional sign colloquially, but a directional sign under the zoning ordinance, 1 is permitted at the entrance to a site, and we think of those often more like, as that's been applied at the entrance to Lakes Region Mental Health. They have a small sign with their logo at their entrance, which is what we consider a directional sign, but there is these sort of strewn throughout the site signs that point towards a particular service, probably ride the line between a freestanding sign and a directional sign.
I think in order to make it actually adhere to our zoning ordinance, we probably need to ask if they're going to consider it a master plan. Signage master plan.
We can do that.
Okay.
Would you consider this a master plan?
We can consider this a master plan for the signage.
Yeah.
What size are these signs? I'm looking. I know it's in front of me right now.
Yeah, no,
18 by 24.
That's fine. So yeah, the directional signs are 18 by 24, and the signs that sit at the spot are actually a combination of 3 panels. You've got the number, the call sign. The number sign is 18 by 18. You've got the sign that sits below it, which is 18 by 8. And then you'll have the sign below that, which is the pickup sign, which is 18 by 36.
There we go. Thank you.
So, and those should be no different. I was just out at the store today. They should be no different than what's currently out there for the existing spots, I believe.
Actually, I have a separate, different question.
Yeah, please.
And perhaps perhaps I didn't read every single word of the letter from DOT, I think it was. There's a new driveway permit?
Yes.
Can you explain the nature of the new driveway permit and where or why that's needed?
So my understanding is that we were asked to do that. We're not planning any improvements within the right-of-way, but it was requested that we get it, so we got it from them. But there's no, the extent of scope outside of this expansion area is restriping and the addition of stop signs, stop text, stop bars, just to facilitate on-site traffic.
So there's no serious really change then? Do you have any further information on that, Joseph? Or?
Yeah, DOT will often require a change of use sign, or sorry, a change of use driveway permit, which is kind of like a change of use site plan, but when there's some substantive change about the property, they often do require these.
Got it.
But I think if the applicant, nothing in this plan indicated to me that the actual traffic pattern into and out of the site, any of the traffic control was changing, and unless I'm mistaken about
No,
that.
that's correct.
Okay. So it really is as straightforward as it looks.
Yeah.
Okay.
About as easy of a Walmart project as you're gonna see.
No, I was, honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, this is a pretty decent sized expansion, it's by the numbers and it's a Walmart. It could be complicated, but it really seems pretty darn straightforward.
Yeah, it's such a small percentage of that.
Does this Walmart technically have two? Sorry, Matt.
Oh, that's all I had to say.
Does this Walmart technically have two driveways? Is my confusion?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
Yep, one is off the town road, Boulder Point Drive, and one
Yeah.
is off Tenny Mountain Highway.
Interesting.
And my understanding is that access off of Boulder Point Drive was a request that was not originally part of the submitted plan, but certainly seems like it gets a lot of use.
It does definitely. So if anyone have any feelings about the number of pickup signs that are on this site proposal?
I'm okay with it.
I mean, I question if the two pickup signs off of 10 Mountain Highway are even necessary. But I'm also not a sign expert. But I do think, hey, if you're already at that first bend,
Yeah,
you are not changing the direction of your motor vehicle
that's true.
until you
That's
get
true.
up to the intersection.
Yeah,
Fair point.
that is, yeah.
And people are going to
It's
Walmart
an
to
encouragement
pick up
sign,
their
yeah.
groceries.
It's an encouragement.
You got this.
You
Yeah.
have come to the right location.
If you really don't have a very good car, come on, your car can make you can make it up the
That
hill.
is the one redundant sign, I would say, yeah.
But then I question, is a 18 by 24 sign going to be, is that going to be of concern if it's like, hey, there's a sign that we might think is not effective, but
You know, I would prefer it not be there, but I'm not really concerned either.
Yeah.
You do, I know Rochester gets a lot of snow, but you do realize we get pretty deep snowbanks here. If the signs are on the side of the road, they have to be pretty high and set back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so all these signs should generally be about 7 foot to the bottom is the standard.
Yeah.
And then usually they don't like them within 4 feet of any travel way.
yep.
4 feet. Still get whacked by a plow.
It could very well.
But that's okay.
Well, do we have to accept this as a master?
I have a question.
Oh, please, Neil.
Is the semi-truck traffic gonna follow the same pattern?
No, so this is depicting strictly customer traffic. This improvement will make no changes to how the trucks access the site today. And if they do probably access through that same area and that drive lane width prior to the expansion and before is unchanged.
Do you need any special signs for the trucks, for truck traffic?
So usually, if Walmart has issues with truck circulation, they'll have existing truck route signs on site. If the board would like to see it, we could certainly prepare and present a truck route plan. But I'm not aware of any issues with truck circulation on the site.
I was just thinking about, you know, the customer traffic using the same lanes.
Yeah, I mean, given this, the way this site is laid out, you know, that drive where the pickup is placed is really the only truck route. So you are gonna have mixing of truck and customer traffic. Something we try to avoid to the best extent that we can. But sometimes, just given site circumstances and site layout, it's just not possible to fully eliminate it.
I mean, just to speak to those concerns, like, how many deliveries do you tend to get in a day?
I don't know the numbers specifically for this store, but the pickup traffic is generally considerably less than the customer traffic you would see at like the front of the store.
Well, I guess I was thinking of the trucks.
Oh, truck I don't want to give you a number that's not correct because it does vary by store and volume and.
I mean, it really shouldn't be a problem for a truck every so often to come through there with a.
No, if this was something that Walmart had concerns about, because they take that very seriously, they would not have proceeded with either this location or this project in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's no other viable way to get a truck in there, so we're not changing that tonight.
Are the trucks that deliver to the store, are they all Walmart owned and operated trucks, or are they third-party suppliers that will
I
also?
believe the larger, like the WB67 trucks, those are all Walmart trucks. The vendor trucks, you know, like bread deliveries, Coke deliveries, those are not Walmart trucks, but those
Right.
are smaller box trucks.
But presumably they're there regularly enough that they understand the traffic patterns
Yes,
already.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that any truck that's making deliveries there is either Walmart owned and there regularly, or they do enough business that I suspect a change in traffic pattern is gonna be adapted to really quickly.
I mean, looking at this, it's not really much of a change in traffic pattern.
Right.
There's a few extra parking spaces, but frankly, before they were already driving past parking spaces.
Right.
They weren't necessarily driving past parking spaces where people are going to go straight across the lane to go pick up things. I mean, they were eventually going to cross it to get to the store.
This is where that already happens. It's just in a, not to that level.
I
So
see.
that's where, if my understanding is correct, you already have a
Yes.
full-blown.
You already have a
There
pickup.
is already pickup
Oh.
there now.
It's just sort of-
This is just an expansion of, usually
Thank you.
what happened with pickup is that, you know, they rolled this thing out, COVID, all that stuff, and they found that, you know, they just need more space to operate, and they usually do try to keep it in the same location that it's at, if that location makes sense. So yeah, they are operating out there down that drive lane currently.
Thank you for the clarification.
I think, yeah, so I think it'll be busier.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's already happening.
No, I understand.
And I don't frequently go up there, but I can say with with conviction that the highlighted route here for the pickup route is the least traveled route on the entire property. That corridor around the perimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if someone were trying to bring a tractor trailer through the garden center,
They'd have some problems.
Is there a time of day when deliveries happen more than other times a day? You know?
That's a good question. I don't know. Generally, I want to say it's like a 8 to 8 type of time
Yeah,
frame.
okay.
I
Not
don't-
an overnight thing.
No, I don't think it's an overnight thing. I can get confirmation on that, but I'm relatively confident those are the
That's
time
fine.
frames.
Thank you.
Joseph, may I ask you a question? So in regards to accepting this, approving it, thank you. Are we taking a step aside and accepting the master plan for the signage first, or what's the best procedural
Yeah,
way?
it's a good question, and I would say that it wouldn't hurt to formally accept a master sign plan, because it is important. It is an important piece of you know, having what is laid out comply with zoning. You know, it really does not The zoning ordinance does not provide a lot of guidance on what the process the board needs to follow is, but I would say making something formal would certainly not hurt, and then perhaps including that in the facts related to the application decision if the board gets there.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a bad idea either.
All right, so we'll take a second and
Can I ask a question of the applicant first?
we're gonna discuss the whole signage.
Yeah, so my question is, I presume this plan shows only changes to the existing site plan?
Yes.
Or is this meant to be comprehensive of all signs on the property, or is this only showing the signs that are changing?
Yeah, so this is only gonna show the signs that are changing, so
Right.
the OPD detail sheet is gonna cover your directional signage and your pickup signage. If you look at the SSM1 and SECP1 sheet, that is gonna detail the change. Now, that does actually call, like, if it's an existing stop sign, aisle sign that's to remain, it
Right.
does state as such.
Yeah.
So it
But
should.
I noticed also A2 has changes to signage on the facade, building mounted signs.
Yeah, so the A2 plan, that is the architect's plan.
Yep.
That does have some changes to building signage, and I think they're also refreshing the pylon sign, I believe.
I guess my question is, what signs are missing? Of the existing signs, if we're only seeing the changes, what signs are on the original plan that we're not seeing? Like, if we were to accept this as a master sign plan, it's probably not comprehensive of all the existing signage.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. Can I go back to the number of pickup signs for a moment?
Please.
I don't want to forget your point, Phil. It's a good one. Is there a internal set of guidelines that Walmart has about the number of pickup signs or distance from between pickup signs or anything? I'm coming back to the long driveway, and by the time you get to the top of the driveway, you've seen 3 pickup signs, and there's no place to go any other direction.
Right.
Yeah, so there is no, I would say, firm guidance on that. So if the request would be to remove a few of those signs, the general sense is we just want to make sure people can get where they need to get to. I would tend to agree, looking at this, that 1 or 2 of those signs prior to the top of the hill, since you really have no other decision points, are probably unnecessary. And I wouldn't be opposed to removing 2 of those. That would not cause a
I'd like to see that
problem.
happen. I mean, it's not a total deal changer for me, but
And especially with the snowplow concerns too, if there's a likelihood that, they're only gonna make it one season,
Marginal value.
what's the point of having them there? So I would certainly be fine removing those 2 lower signs on that run there.
Along the same line of questioning, there are 2 signs to the south of the entrance off of Boulder
After
Point
that
Road.
intersection.
Yeah. I mean, do you think both of those signs are necessary, or could those be combined to
so
one?
are both of those on Boulder Point, or is only one of them and the other
So
one's turning?
what I was saying is in the parking lot to the south of the entrance from Boulder Point.
Oh, in the parking lot, okay.
Yeah,
There
so
are 2
we,
signs there where I'm wondering if one would suffice.
we put those 2 there because you have the medians there.
Okay.
So that if someone
Each
does turn too soon, like they're kind of stuck going all the way to the front of the store.
Yeah.
Again, there's no set guideline on our side of things. So I mean, if the board wanted to see one of those removed for simplicity, again, it's not something.
So I guess it means if you're already parked there perhaps and you need to pick something up, and you get to the end of the aisle, you see a pickup sign, and you go, I go that way.
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
I think human nature is that once people understand where everything is, the signs will be irrelevant. But I think the question is, you're trying to establish the behavior pattern of people going to that location or knowing that it's available, right?
Yeah, the big thing is, like,
the
we don't-
signage is also advertising that this is a service that's available.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want customers to be confused, right? If they can't get to pick up easily, or they take a wrong turn, there's a potential for them to complain. And then the other important piece of it is we don't like to typically route traffic along the storefront road because it's so busy. So that's the other intent, is to use this signage to make sure that nobody thinks I mean, obviously, if you're familiar with the store, you might say, okay, I'm just gonna zip around and go across the front of the store anyway, but we wanna try not to encourage traffic to the front of the store where you have the most customers.
I think the signs at the intersection are important, and maybe remove one of the ones past the intersection and leave one on each side of it there to the way. So it'll handle your median and then at the corner.
Yeah, so we can remove I'd say I would call it the second straight sign after the intersection.
Okay.
I mean, you know the customers better than we do, and you guys have,
No, I mean, so,
Obviously
I mean, I'll be
dealt
honest, looking at this, I would agree with your comments that this is probably, there's a few too many on here, so. You're not gonna catch any objections from me.
So that puts us down to 1, 2, 3, 4 signs, four wayfinding signs. I'm sorry.
and then the big one at the end.
Yes, 3, 4.
And that big one at the end, that is a banner that will hang on the light pole.
So back to your point, Phil, perhaps.
Yeah. I
What's
think,
the size of the banner that's on the light pole?
Light pole banner
Over
is
here.
24 by 60.
Ooh, that's a big one. No joke.
And
Until
you
we get a windy day.
I think it makes a lot of sense to consider this a master plan, but I am concerned about what Phil said about the comprehensiveness of that. We have like a tiny picture of the very first sign that's on Route 25, on A2.
My concerns are, now that we're talking about it more, is what possible implications are we gonna have with what's named a master sign plan for
Right.
Walmart?
Right. Right. Like I think that if we wanted to set a precedent for what an actual signage master plan is, I'm not sure this is what it would look like.
Is there
We could,
a master sign plan already?
No, not on the site.
Could we potentially ask as a condition for the full array?
Yeah.
I think that's potentially, without setting a standard of these are,
Exactly the things you need.
I have a proposal that I would like to suggest that we do as much work as we can tonight, but I would suggest that we continue this and allow the public time to digest this. We've been in the habit of accepting and approving site plans, and we're not obligated to. We have is it a 60-day, 90-day 65-day window to review plans, and I don't think we always serve the interest best by feeling we have to approve a plan the night it's accepted. So, we could continue this and ask for a master sign plan to include all of the signage on site to be included with the site plan and consider it at our next meeting.
I would say I generally wholeheartedly agree with you. I personally don't feel like I'm trying to rush this. Everything else seems very straightforward.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any, I think we could probably get to a very good consensus about
Yeah.
this moving forward.
did you have a question?
Yeah, what is the duration of your construction schedule, and when were you hoping? Or
Yeah, so this
how
is
much workable time do you have?
So this project, let me see, I know, I had a note in here, I think it's about a 4-month construction window. I don't believe construction is gonna start until into 26.
Okay.
So if we kind of procrastinate a little, it's not gonna hurt you?
I mean, ideally, I would love to have conditional approval so that we can just work on the master plan and, not come back. But, I understand the concern. So I'm not gonna tell you, don't, you can't get, obviously you can continue it. So I would prefer not, but, I say it's obviously Walmart will work with, with you guys to get that signage plan, the way that you want it, and then we can even pull in, our architectural partners who prepared that A2 plan, to make sure that it's delivering you exactly what you want to see.
Can I actually ask for clarification then? I'm looking at A2 with all the signage on the outside of the building. And what I'm seeing on the main facade looks pretty close to what I remember seeing right now.
That's,
There's some differences, I believe.
Very small
I do not believe it's a substantial change, and I am not going to be super well versed to speak on their plan, but it's the same thing. If the colors out there now are generally what they want, they try to keep especially building updates, because that can be something that people take issue with, to try to keep it as consistent with what's out there now, and usually just incorporate, minor new branding tweaks.
Does
I think
does anybody have a picture? Does anybody have a picture?
information on this.
Yeah, the major difference is if you look at the two gables on either side of the central Walmart sign, the color, the blue color on those gables today is on the gable, on what's proposed for you today is on the gable. What exists out there right now, the blue is below the gable and gray is above the gable. On what's proposed here, the blue goes to the top of the gable and the gray goes to the bottom of the gable.
So in fact, this facade here would represent what the entire new facade looks like with some changes to the gables.
Exactly.
So in a sense, I mean, I'm wondering what a master sign plan would have that this does not have. If we already are seeing changes to the overall design, even if fairly small ones, represented in this elevation here.
So I guess my question would be, what other signs, if any, would we potentially be missing out on?
Like, I'm not sure if
We
there's
have all
any.
these.
These are already the new ones, and not the old ones.
Right, these are the new ones.
And the old ones aren't that much different, and these are acceptable.
Bless you.
I mean, personally, I agree with Phil about not wanting to rush, and I generally am very strongly in favor of that point. I just don't see a whole lot here to hold us up.
I don't either, but at the same time, I mean, we may have, a member of the public may see this next week and want to come back and share something that concerns them, and I feel like we deprive the public of the opportunity to comment at times.
I am not sure I mean, I'm all for that opportunity,
Yeah.
and if we have a public hearing scheduled and noticed, and nobody shows up,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we haven't done our diligence.
Can we have a meeting scheduled and noticed if we have say if we put a conditional permit on this?
I mean, conditional acceptance of approval.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bearing the master sign plan.
yeah.
Would that give the public the opportunity to speak on that?
Only if you made that a long day.
So you can't, the thing is, we can't
Compliance hearing.
change any decisions.
Compliance hearing.
We can't change any decisions made at that point, so like, it's kind of an after-the-fact public hearing, after it's approved, is kind of pointless.
It could be a compliance hearing though, like we did with Mountain Village.
Yeah, and that's where you're
And presumably
reviewing,
Walmart will come
Right.
back.
you're reviewing whether the board feels that the condition has been satisfactorily complied with. So it's not the board can't remake any decisions. The board really can look at what information is presented and say, does this meet the condition we placed on the approval for a more substantive condition?
I will say that Google Street View goes right down that, right down the side of the building where this is proposed. There's you can kind of see what's there, and if you don't go drive down there yourself, it's very easy to visualize where this is proposed to be.
I don't have I understand what you're saying, Phil, and
Yeah.
the agenda, people have been noticed, the agenda's been out for a week. I don't feel like the changes to this whole thing are huge. I think everything is pretty straightforward. It's very complete. They've given us more information than most, and I don't have a problem with moving it forward with a few conditions.
I make a motion that we accept the master sign plan as proposed by the applicant in the plans,
With no changes.
with no changes. Oh, well, with the changes
The
discussed,
elimination,
including the elimination of, is it 4 signs?
3.
1, 2, 3 signs.
So 1, 2.
With the elimination of those 3 signs.
yep, 3 signs.
Objections?
1, 2, yeah,
I am not certain that I feel that the main sign on 25 is represented super sufficiently on this, unless you feel
It is
strongly
there.
otherwise.
It's on
Technically,
the
it's
top
there.
left of page
Technically,
A2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's not changing.
No.
It's not a huge, great representation of it, you're right.
Yes. Thank you. But it is there. That's true. It's true.
So this is just to accept what we have as a sign plan, as a master sign plan.
With
Not,
the changes.
and did you get a second?
I did not.
We do not have a second.
Okay.
We do have a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on accepting what are in these submitted plans?
Minus the
Master
3
sign plan.
signs.
Minus the 3 signs, the 2 coming up the hill, and then I believe the farthest one in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the motion?
Can you repeat?
It's a motion, it's a motion to accept what's in the application minus those 3 wayfinding signs as a master sign plan. So it's not the entire site plan, just a master sign plan.
Just a sign plan, and then we'll consider the approval of the site plan afterwards.
Joseph, do we ever come to situations where we have to take someone's file out to say, hey, we need to review their master sign plan? You know, just say I'm just trying to think years down the road, something comes up where it says, hey, we need to go back and see what the master sign plan is.
It would typically, would it not be
Kind of like
the
this.
code enforcement officer?
Yeah,
that
but-
would do that?
Okay, yeah.
Because typically, if somebody wants to put up a sign, we do have a sign permit that they would have to file, and then they would verify compliance with the sign, with the site plan. It comes up from time to time. I know the co-op has had to do that at times.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the table. If there's no further discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions?
Nay.
One opposition?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. We will accept this as a master sign plan.
Okay.
Now, we will look at accepting, if we want to accept, the plan itself. You know what, I'll open this for public hearing.
Good idea.
Thank you. Anyone online or in the audience that would like to discuss the master sign plan we just voted
Or anything else.
on? Or anything else for that matter. I'm not-
I will note that there's nobody online other than town accounts, and there's nobody in the audience, so.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing.
I'd just like to say that, they have a building that's 156,738 square feet, and they want to add 2,180 feet. That's almost imperceptible.
So about 1.5%.
Yeah.
How many acres is it?
22?
They got 22 acres.
Well, we'll move on to the plan itself to see if we want to accept this plan. And if it is something we do want to accept, we'll go through some finding of facts.
I would offer a finding of fact that this proposed construction project does not increase the impervious area on the site.
I will make a finding of fact that although the added square footage increases the number of required parking spaces, the required parking spaces are still met within the new plan.
The applicant has provided sufficient travel access for delivery trucks and for customers.
Utilities are not an issue, water and sewer. They have it.
All necessary setbacks would be met by this proposed development.
Did we mention the sign plan, the finding of fact? That the applicant has a master sign plan that the board has approved. The applicant has received a new driveway permit.
In the state of New New Hampshire.
From the state of New Hampshire. Thank you. DOT.
I will say there's a finding of fact that the proposed project includes a minor change to the drainage system to reconfigure drainage around the parking area around the new structure.
I will say that the additional pickup area is a approved use. It's an accessory use anyway. In addition.
More than we
All
usually
right,
have.
yeah. It's more than usual. And then conditions to consider,
Money in escrow?
development agreement?
Yeah, or, yeah.
Yeah,
If you're gonna, we should make, yeah. So we're discussing conditions of, if someone were to make a motion?
What they might be.
yes.
Um,
Development agreement and construction inspection.
Necessary permits.
An escrow for inspection, yeah.
Yep.
And a revised plan showing the final locations of signs as proposed.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About that.
That's very good. Anybody want to make a motion?
I can remember how to do it. I
feel
would
like
do
I've
it.
been making a lot of- I feel like I've been making a lot of motions this evening.
You have.
Okay, I move we conditionally approve this application with the conditions that the applicant sign a development agreement, provide money in escrow for inspections, provide an updated plan with updated signage, and was there something else?
Any necessary permits.
Any necessary permits
Prior to development.
prior, yeah, to development. Is that everything?
I believe so. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the application is approved.
Thank you, everybody.
Condition.
Conditionally. with-
Get it all. You have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did Bill say wait for him?
No, he said, don't worry. Wait for me, you guys.
All right, so, still on our agenda number 5, but going to the continued compliance hearing of Mountain Village Charter School.
Before we go any further, can I just make a, I have been recusing myself from this. I'm willing to continue to do so. At the same time, some of my reasons for recusing are less strong than they used to be, including like family members on the board and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which is no longer the case. And I feel comfortable at this point sitting in. On the other hand, I haven't sat in for the rest of it, so I could also just recuse myself again.
I personally would feel comfortable if you sat in and enjoyed the
up to
conversation.
you.
'Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
really.
new decision.
Yep,
Well, sometimes it's good just for consistency's sake.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, yep. Ultimately, your decision, but
Right, I'll sit in.
we'll welcome back. Joseph, do you mind running us through this one quickly? Well, not necessarily quickly, just running us through this.
Yeah,
Seems like I'm
absolutely.
rushing.
Absolutely. So, as the board may recall, Mountain Village Charter School was approved conditionally on January 18th, 2024 to build a three-building educational facility on a property on the north side of Penny Mountain Highway. The approval included a number of conditions, including some which required relatively significant changes to the plan, including providing a safe, separated pedestrian walkway from the parking area to the building, and providing lighting of the walkways and parking areas. As a result of the substantive nature of some of these conditions, the board asked that Mountain Village come back before the board for a compliance hearing so the board could review any updated plans for conformity with that condition. Under the site plan review regulations, applicants have 1 year to meet the conditions of approval and 2 years to begin active and substantial development. In January of this year, that 1 year to meet conditions was set to expire, but this board granted a 1-year extension of that time frame. The board has also held a number of continuations of that compliance hearing because to this point, the Mountain Village Charter School has not provided the revised plans. I did just recently receive a additional communication from Mountain Village, from Delaney Carrier, the vice president of the board, who's been representing them on these matters. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just read it sort of word for word.
Please. Thank you.
Joseph, thank you for reaching out. We at MVCS appreciate the patience that the Plymouth Planning Board has demonstrated and their continued support for our proposed new campus project. Unfortunately, we have concluded that at this time, we cannot commit to beginning construction within the time frame of the current site plan conditional approval due to our financial constraints versus the ever-increasing costs of construction. We are, however, continuing with plans to move to a new campus and are exploring options, including purchase or lease of a different property or modifying the current build plans. So I expect that we will see you again sometime in the future. Take care, Delaney Carrier. So they have advised that they do not expect to move forward with this conditionally approved project. I'm happy to talk through that a little bit more if the board would like me to at some point in terms of the
I wish them the best.
Given that, do we need to do anything or other than wait for the period of time to run out? We've granted them a 1-year extension and technically if they chose to change their mind and wanted to come back and comply within that year, they could, right?
Yep.
But, so my recommendation is why don't we just let this pass and give them the opportunity. If they choose to change their mind, they can, but if not, this will expire in January of 26.
That's what I feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I do wish them the best. I hope they find a campus or facility that suits their needs. Building is expensive.
Do you need any decision from us further than that discussion?
Yeah, so the board had previously announced a continued compliance hearing to this evening.
Okay.
So the board could open that, and then they haven't asked the board to continue it again. So if the decision is to just let it kind of run out the clock and see if they come back in, really just, you could open that compliance hearing if the board were so inclined, but then since they haven't asked for a continuance, there's really no pressing need to continue it. That being said, the board could continue the compliance hearing again, but it sounds like we won't be anticipating any revised plans coming in under this approval before January 18th.
If it were me, I'd be inclined to just let it lapse, and if they came back, renotice a new hearing.
Yep. I'm
I agree.
comfortable with that.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. All right, we will let the clock run out on that. If they come back, we'll see them again. So I'm just going to Walmart.
We don't have anybody here for a conceptual consultation, do we?
Oh,
Okay, item number 6 on our agenda tonight, informational and pre-app reviews. We have a potential conceptual consultation of 166 Highland Street. Is there anyone online with us, Joseph?
There does not appear to be anybody on Zoom.
So we're being asked for a conceptual without any potential applicant here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's up to the board. I mean, you know, a conceptual is an opportunity for an applicant really to discuss proposals with the board in a non-binding informational way. You know, there's nothing that I suppose stops the board from discussing if they're so inclined, but in the absence of the applicant, the board would only be able to sort of discuss as best as possible without knowing exactly what the applicant is looking for feedback. But generally, this was an inquiry that was made, you know, to the town by the owner of a business at 166 Highland Street, the existing Red Carpet Inn, about possibly expanding the use a little bit to create either some use existing barn space or add another structure to the property to have a staff quarters location. The complexity that arose is that this is a existing non-conforming use in the single-family residential zone where a hotel is actually not a permitted use. So expansion of a non-conforming use often requires a variance. But some of those questions, you know, how to handle this, came to staff, and the applicant had expressed interest, or the property owner had expressed interest in potentially obtaining feedback from the board, conceptual feedback, and certainly, you know, perhaps could still do that at some point in the future.
Adding a conforming use to a non-conforming
Lot.
lot is fine, though, I would imagine, yes.
Well, as long as it's not an expansion of the non-conforming use,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, as I understand it, they're kind of two separate requests, I would say.
But if they were to add a single-family residence on a lot in the single-family residential zone, it wouldn't be an expansion of the non-conforming use, right?
That's what I'm guessing,
Or
yeah.
even an accessory dwelling unit. That's a
Yeah.
good question.
Because they said they wanted to use it for their help.
Correct.
Oh,
They have all those
They rent it out to
cabins.
accessory dwelling units.
They have all those cabins.
Right.
I just don't,
Well, and yeah, I'd be curious to know if this is truly a hotel or if it's apartments, and is it different?
well, I think if you're providing the housing for your staff,
Right.
doesn't that become a different
That's
use?
residential.
I mean, it may be residential, but I don't know if they're paying for the use of that or they're working for, I don't know what the situation is,
I
but
don't know if it matters as long as
they're not related.
living
There'd be
there
more than
and-
3 unrelated maybe, or,
Well, that might not even exist anymore.
We'll have to keep our eye out.
On state
yeah, I
legislation.
think it's just, really, they need to be here to tell us what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Would
It's
you recommend
difficult
that
to
they
get
go to the
feedback.
zoning board?
Good to think about it.
Yeah.
I'd be reticent to say too much without them even being here.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I guess
A lot
what
of questions.
my suggestions or asks would be, think about this concept of a non-conforming lot. Adding, or, geez, how do you word this? You know,
Expanding a non-conforming use.
expanding with conforming use or expanding with non-conforming use, yeah.
And,
So-
and let them come to us to say.
Yeah, I don't think. we
Think
should
about
just-
it, have it in your mind, it's an interesting one.
Like any non-conforming use, it's always muddy.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't make it easy. All right, I guess that is our conceptual consultation at the moment. If the landowner or other representatives would like to join us in the future, we'd be more than welcome to further this consultation. Joseph, any other business from you or your staff?
None on my end, just heads up, the project that the board approved at Riverside Landing Phase 2, the hotel, is continuing to work towards meeting their conditions, and they did obtain the town engineer's sign-off of the plans after the review, which was a condition the board had placed. So there are just, now they need to execute that construction inspection escrow, shift the plan review phase, make sure that the plans reflect what the town engineer has signed off on, and then they will need to basically get their boundary line adjustment Mylar provided to the town, and then get that construction inspection escrow for the site plan established. So a couple of administrative steps left to do, but generally they are pretty well underway with those, and I would anticipate those being completed fairly soon. Also on another update on a previously approved application, the board had placed a condition that the Three Lakes site plan be brought before the zoning board for a special exception for accessory structures in the setback. That has now been filed for this upcoming zoning board meeting.
Actually, can I ask about the previous site plan at Riverside Landing? That looks like it's almost complete. Is it almost, where is that?
Yes, so I don't have a sign off from the town's engineer saying that it is finalized, but based on the look of it, it seems like it's pretty well underway. Of course, it is worth noting that they have not done all of the land area that they intend to elevate.
Mostly
so,
just for the hotel, I guess.
right, so it's, I would say maybe 50% of that project is probably just about done. And that is everything that would support the hotel, but there is still the portion along Tenny Mountain Highway, which is sort of longer and narrower, which has not been completed at this point, though a lot of the work out back to support that has been done. So I would say it's substantively well underway, and the portion necessary to support the hotel is likely just about complete, but we don't have a formal sign-off from the town's engineer yet about that.
I actually think it will be less visually disturbing when the rest of that site work is done. Right now it looks like a giant island, but I think when the rest of the site work is completed, it will actually improve the situation.
I think the biggest disturbance is mostly the wetlands,
Yeah, right, I know.
not more than the people.
I know.
Originally, that wasn't a wetland. They carved it out to build the highway.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Can I make a fairly unrelated board comment?
I was just about to ask if there was any other comments from the board members.
I said something to Joseph earlier today. It's a little bit on the kind of lighter side of things. Do you remember when we did the chickens?
Yeah,
Single-family residential?
Oh,
yeah,
And-
roosters, no roosters.
And how big of a deal that is?
Yeah.
So Laconia is going through the same thing right now,
I saw it in the paper.
and it
this
made the
morning.
newspaper.
Yes.
They have roosters?
It was in the sun today.
Oh, no, they didn't make the newspapers, but like, apparently when anybody considers chickens in the residential zone, it's like headline news.
Wow. Big deal.
I just thought it was kind of hilarious.
Chickens eat ticks.
They do. That's why we love them.
And ants.
Of course, the hawks eat
Like-
chickens.
We have lots of
Planning
ants.
boards across the state are doing so many important things.
Yeah.
But then when chickens come up, it's like headline.
They can be controversial.
I guess they
Very.
are. Yeah.
You saw that too.
I did.
And raise the cost of their eggs.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
says
more eggs.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to butt in when you're not done talking about
Sorry.
chickens.
I think we're done, please.
Thank you. Okay. So the letter from Grace Garvey about the Plymouth Conservation Commission, I am interested in going in less of a formal way, just if that's all right with everybody. I might have a schedule
Yeah.
conflict, but if not, I'd like to go.
I'm sure they would accept more
Yeah.
than one. I think
Doesn't
they were
sound like
looking
a
for a
very
minimum
Yeah.
of one.
Group, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I don't think that's.
Very inclusive.
Great. Thank you. Just wanted to check in about that.
I have a question for you, Joseph. Do you know where the bill is right now in the state for the acceptance for detached ADUs by right? Do we know where how that's looking, or what's going on there?
So a lot of the bills have crossed over.
Okay.
I don't know the final status of that. Many of the ones that we've sort of been monitoring that will require some zoning action have been started to get their second chamber approval. I have not seen that one come through as one that's been approved. So if it started in the House, they've been approved by the House, and they go over to the Senate and have to be approved by the Senate in some form or another, then they have to reconcile the two. I have not seen.
And then it has to be signed by the governor.
It does indeed.
And the governor wants to sign anything that's pro housing right now.
True. So I think the accessory dwelling unit one is not one that I have seen making that second approval yet, that is of the second legislative chamber. There's been I don't know that many have made it to the governor yet. I think there's still a little bit before we'll start to see these large numbers make it. But they're getting closer, and I wouldn't be surprised if that one hasn't gotten through or been heard by one of those two, by the second body. It will probably pretty soon, because they're all kind of moving in waves.
Okay.
So
Can I-
we're probably close.
Can I ask some clarification? I mean, on the first side of that is, usually the Senate has been the moderating voice to kind of push back at some of the speed of these changes, and they're not this time.
Okay.
They're both kind of bouncing it back and forth. But the other thing that I've heard is that several of these bills, because of concerns that they're not really fully fleshed out yet and properly written, actually have a year kind of lapse on them before they get implemented, which is kind of like putting the cart before the horse. Like, we're going to sign the bill and then figure out how to write it.
Media conference.
But I do believe that some of those that look like they're probably going to pass and get signed do have a 1 year gap before implementation and actually taking effect. And that gives time for communities to actually prepare, but also time to actually fix what should have been fixed before it was signed in the first place.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's how many of them that is, but at least some of them.
It's a common theme.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Has there been any controversy about the ADUs?
I haven't heard a whole lot about that one. Some of the bigger ticket items are residential by right in the commercial zones. That has seemed to get some traction, and there's also been some discussion about that. Some of the other ones that are kind of catch-alls for several preemptions of zoning, that those have had, there's been a little bit of, well, some of those are including a lot of things in one bill, different, different restrictions on things towns can do, but.
To include manufactured by right in residential zones.
Yep. That is another one.
Smaller lot sizes on water and sewer by default.
I can give you an update on House Bill 577, which is the one on ADUs. As of the last action on Legiscan, the last action is that on 513, which was what, Tuesday?
Yep.
Tuesday.
The Senate committee report was to pass, a vote of 5-1, and it goes on the Senate calendar 21A. So
That's
off to
pretty
the full Senate.
positive.
Yep. Perfect.
She'll probably sign that.
And we're seeing a lot of changing in lending. There's a lot of adaptation where you used to have to refinance your mortgage if you want to build an ADU, but now
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of changes in the lending world in real estate where they're actually writing mortgages for ADUs.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So if you have your primary mortgage, and you don't want to mess with that, local banks even, we're starting to see this churn a little bit where there's a new lending package, mortgage,
Yeah.
that they will underwrite just an ADU, in detached or attached. Yep.
Some banks, you don't have to redo your mortgage at all.
Yeah.
They just give you more money.
And this would be a new mortgage where you'll have a separate, another lien on you.
It's the same interest rate and that's a big key.
Which is huge, I think, which we think about the process of zoning, but then if people on the other side of lending are like, we're also gonna help. Just an idea, just a thought.
True.
Interesting.
Nobody wants to have a higher interest rate.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Nobody wants to move because.
Yeah, right. Well, any other business comments or?
Just so you all know, Joseph and I have been working on the New Hampshire Plan charrette application,
Oh, superb.
and yes, that's all. We've been working on it.
Thank you.
We will probably have something ready. We're gonna have something for the select board by their meeting on the 27th.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Also worth noting, this past week this past Friday, was the Association of Regional Planning Commissions Commissioner convening, which they hold every 3 to 5 years, where all the regional planning commissions in the state get together, the directors, plus a contingent of up to 6 commissioners, for kind of big convening, and they had the national executive director of the kind of broader council of like commissions, basically, who was there speaking, as well as representatives of DOT and lots of other OPD and other organizations in the state, as well as Maggie Goodlander was there, as well as representatives from some of our other representatives. And so it was like a 4-hour kind of shindig on this past Friday. We got a lot of updates and interesting information, and discussions of how to deal with uncertain times and lack of sudden loss of grant funding and all those sorts of issues that a lot of organizations are dealing with and trying to navigate. And so that happened this past Friday. It was an interesting event.
Thank you. You attended?
Yes.
Excellent. Sounds very good.
Hopefully, if any planning, hopefully everybody got the opportunity to attend the Office of Planning and Development Spring Planning and Zoning workshops this past weekend. It seems as though it was a great success. Those videos are now available to stream, so if anybody wants to rewatch them, or if you didn't make it to the live session, those are now available online.
I will say if they start doing them in person, I will go, but I have a really hard time sitting in front of a computer for that stuff.
The good news is they're all recorded, and the recordings have, I think, been released now earlier today, I think.
Yep, exactly.
And in addition, I would also mention that there were at least a couple of housing-related sessions on the third track of the conference. One of them had to do with the new housing calculator, which OPD has on their website, which allows you to get a rough estimate of the tax impact of various types of new housing in your community. So we often make all kinds of wild guesses about what the potential impact could be. And this is not exactly totally precise, of course, because you can't actually do that without a real application. But it lets you choose, like, multifamily, single family, all that kind of stuff, number of units, whether they're workforce or not, and workforce is kind of mostly means deed restricted workforce, it seems like, and a bunch of other things. And you just feed all the information there, what town you're in, and it like pumps out numbers in terms of tax impact and stuff.
What town you're in and everything.
Yeah. So that's a new tool they have that is rolled out recently, and they had a session on that, which you can check out. And there was another session that Judy Barrett was in, as well as Ivy Van and Mark Fougere, and I'm forgetting the last person's name. And they were talking about like affordability issues, like, hey, you've made great zoning. Why isn't anybody building anything? Because they can't afford to. And what that means, and how to respond to that, and how to make it more affordable for developers, besides just like making things cheaper for developers, like builders. And yeah, so Judy was part of that. And then, if I recall correctly, this is similar to what they provided as I think there's like the same or similar group of people that's at NECAP.
Yes, it's
They gave a similar session.
right.
And it's a pretty interesting session. It was recorded, and you can see that as well. And I think those are the two to watch probably.
Yeah, those are some interesting topics, and like you said, that is a session that has been done a couple of times about the dollars and cents, or will it pencil? How do you how do you sort of figure out whether a development project is going to pencil? That is it going to work financially? Some interesting insights on that for sure that we don't really have to be responsible for on the planning board, but it's good to know and very helpful to see that side of it.
And both of these, I think, are helpful to think about as we go into another HOP program again.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you for the updates. Well, if there are no other comments tonight,
We can keep going.
I think we've done well.
Public?
Motion to
Is
adjourn?
anybody on?
Oh,
No one on.
Second.
Anyone on public? Anyone on the internet or whatever we're calling this thing? Zoom.
There's a question on the floor.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, John.
So we've got a
All right,
motion.
we
and
have
second.
a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. If there's no other discussions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Meeting adjourned.